are live. What is going on, everybody? I'll give a minute to let some people catch on there. I am live for the first time on this channel for a Thursday night. We're going to call this the Reconnected. We are going to be going over announcements from the last week. We are going to be talking about what's releasing next week. We are going to be maybe doing some unboxings here and there if there's anything left over. That way, don't have to, do any regular video like that. If you're here watching, say what's up. Let's talk in the comments. I want to see if we can get a community going. That's the whole point, the connection. That's why we are here. I am going to share from the Instagram for the Disconnected everything that was announced this week. And the first one's a doozy. Love that that's what we're showing first. Anybody out there at the moment, say hey. We are going to look at the Livid Media announcement first for Even Hitler Had a Girlfriend. This is hilarious. They actually had to censor everything on here. Everything that you're seeing with the words, they were not allowed to post it on Facebook unless they took it down with the censoring there. Kind of Facebook about it. Yeah. This release, I've actually heard about this for quite some time. I've never seen it. It's supposed to be surprisingly decent, and I believe this is going to be coming with the sequel on here as well. This is from '91. Joe Bob said that it was the awarded the best drive-in movie of the year in 1991, and this is Marcus Templeton is an overweight, sex-obsessed loser who brings new meaning to the word pathetic. He's such a complete non-entity that he even lacks the imagination to masturbate effectively. Every attempt to connect with woman leads to a new low in self-degradation. Eventually, he discovers that beautiful, sexy women are obtainable. All he has to do is pay them. Unfortunately, it's an expensive hobby, and his life savings rapidly disappears with his car and shortly his apartment. Videotaping the proceedings can prolong the fleeting moments of pleasure, but what if one of the hookers takes exception? I don't know if anybody has seen this out there. I know that it is one of the underground films that's been talked about for quite some time, so I'm glad it's getting a release. However, it is only getting a DVD release, which is not unexpected on some of these older titles, but that's what we get, unfortunately. Some of these shot on video titles, I don't know how many out there are collecting them. I've got a few. There's actually a company that I've shared on the Disconnected page a few times called SOV Horror, Shot on Video Horror. They do sales on their site, I believe, every Friday, something like that. And one of the titles is usually only $8 or $10. It's a good place to start if you've never dived into it. The other one that I would suggest is SRS Cinema. They do sales quite often. They also do a lot of pre-sales where you can get something on Blu-ray if they get enough of them ordered. Usually it's very limited on Blu-ray to literally only like 50 or 100 copies. Let's see what else we had. Kino had this older title. This is Deported with Jeff Chandler and Marta Torin. This is just one of their classic films. It's coming out soon. This is a big one. Olaf Ittenbach's Premudos. This is coming out in December. This is a little earlier than I think that we were expecting. And it's an extended director's cut, which is rather neat. I have never seen this one. Supposedly, it's a pretty bad movie, and this art is the best part of this. But the Unearthed Classics line is actually pretty neat. If you've never given it the time of day, I would. They've got a few good titles in there, like The Unnameable is a part of the Unearthed Classics line. Pretty fun title. Nice practical effects on that one. And then, of course, the big one that everybody was talking about last weekend is Jack Frost, and then Jack Frost 2 are both coming to MVD Rewind. Now, if you watched, I did a video on MVD Rewind last week on the channel about how to focus on collecting MVD Rewind, how to get the best deals and all that. They actually, surprisingly, had a sale the day that I posted that, and that sale is one of the best ways to save when you're going for MVD Rewind. I'm not sure if it's still going. Let me see. Yeah, till August 13th. It's still on till tomorrow at noon. So if you're going to get into MVD Rewind, now would be the great time to do that. Jack Frost and Jack Frost 2 are obviously Jack Frost is a reprint from the Vinegar Syndrome, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. There's some people that obviously were never able to get that slipcover for Jack Frost because it sold out so quickly, and now that goes for over $100. It appears that they're going to have some exclusive features on this one. As you can see, there's a new audio commentary with Hack the Movies, the podcast, and there's a full Empire Promotions Dominic Mancini interview with Scott McDonald. And that is part 1. I believe part 2 is on the Jack Frost 2. And that is enough for some people to double dip. I will likely be buying it since I've got most of the other MVD rewinds already, but it's a reason for them to release it again. And the title is going out of print. Supposedly, once Vinegar Syndrome has gotten rid of everything they have in stock, then it's out of print. It's one of those odd, it's not a timed contract. It is something that they're holding on to for a while, but as soon as they can, they will let it go. What's going on, Angel? I thought about getting the 2 lesser Jess Francos, but there are other things higher in priority. Yeah, I get that. And with Jess Franco, it seems like he had so many movies that he directed. There's always another one on the horizon, especially if you're a fan of Severin and what they put out. And there's some older Jess Francos that I don't have that I've been looking for recently. There is a Redemption title that I need from him that has looked great. But yeah, that MVD sale, if you were going to be shopping there, I believe it's $5 or $6 for shipping. And some people think this is odd, but I believe it's just for the size of box that they go up to. They have a max of 15 items per order. And no matter how many items you order, the shipping is going to be the same, $5 or $6 the entire time, up to 15 titles, which obviously if you're getting, 5 or 8 titles, $6 shipping is nothing in the grand scheme of things, especially if you're saving some of these titles, they're going for $8 and $9. And Eric from MVD Rewind, he was saying that if it's a cheaper title in MVD Rewind, it is more likely to have a slipcover than some of the more expensive ones, which is odd. I guess some of the older ones, they just didn't sell as well. So perhaps they're trying to get rid of some of those older releases that they've had in their warehouse for a while. Now, what about this art? Obviously, the Vinegar Syndrome release for Jack Frost has a really, really iconic lenticular slipcover. I dig this art. It's a nice cartoony set. I actually like Jack Frost 2 much better. The vibe of it just is welcoming. It looks fun as hell. I'm really glad that they're putting them out the same day. And this one, obviously, the subtitle is Revenge of the Mutant Killer Snowman. I think it fits with the art very well. And then, like I was talking about, special features. We got new audio commentary with Hack the Movies on this. And then the second part of that Dominic Mancini interview with Scott McDonald. So if you get them both together, there's some complimentary special features there for both titles, which is always nice. Speaking of Jess Franco, that's one of the things that I've liked about the Severin titles from Jess Franco the best is they have the In the Land of Franco series that they did of all of the filming locations for Franco over in Europe. And they are really nice to pick up one and see part 1 and then pick up another one and just continue on like it's a series, even though they're not connected in any other way. And Severin puts everything into those releases. Really nice. So yeah, I am digging this cover art. It's going to look really good, especially in the classic MVD Rewind slipcovers. They always have this sort of nostalgic, retro style slipcovers. I went over all of them in that video, and just one of my favorite ones. I don't know how many people have seen this one up close. Let me make this a little bigger for you. This Action USA slipcover, obviously this is another reprint from Vinegar Syndrome. This is something from Eric's Video Club. And Eric is the gentleman from MVD Rewind. His name is on there because he wanted to emulate his old video club that he was a part of from a video store. And I just love that they're giving this sort of appreciation and attention to titles like this. I'm obviously not a huge fan of the reprints. I'd rather we got something that was brand new to disc, and MVD Rewind has been great about that. And I do have a feeling they're going to be going back to that, especially in 2022. if you read on the Blu-ray.com forums, Eric is very open about what they're working on, and it appears there's some more coming. And even this year, they have Dirty Laundry coming. That was never even on disc. And there is, Tom Ford says, $5.99 shipping from MVD. It's a good sale. I agree. And they, for those of you that don't know, MVD is, the D is for distribution. So they do distribution for Synapse, for MVD, obviously. They do Arrow. Severin just recently moved to them. They were under CAV, and now they're under MVD. They also do Unearthed Films. And anybody that is distributed by MVD, they have a sale through MVD, usually once a year. They're not timed. They're not anything that we can count on, but you can expect to see them eventually. That usually sometime every 12, 15 months, something like that. And MVD Rewind, it seems to be a little more rare since it's one that they own outright. I don't know why they do less sales, but they do. They had a sale just, probably 3 weeks ago on Synapse. And there was a lot available in that sale that has not even been available on other sites for a while. And most of the prices, there was a couple like The Image from Synapse. It was only 14 or 15 bucks. And on Amazon, it's usually about 28, 29. So it's a pretty good sale. And then even when you look at the $5.99 shipping, you make that back on the first title. So if you get anything more than that, you're doing pretty good. Let's see what else we had announced this week. The Brass Bottle, Kino Lorber, always doing their classic titles. This one is with Tony Randall and Barbara Eden and Burl Ives. I'm sure it'll look great. They usually do. Now this one, I am not sure if anybody that has been following this channel is into premium steelbooks. I am into some of them. I don't do too many. I showed this one in one of my earlier videos, The Nice Guys. This is the one click that comes with 3 different steelbooks of the same movie. This is the Godzilla vs. Kong one-click box, and this is coming out for pre-order next Friday. This is going to be from Manta Lab, and if you're not aware, this big one-click box will have these 3 different releases in there. This is going to be the full slip release, the lenticular full slip release, and then this one is the double lenticular full slip. And there are some pictures here that show what they're going to look like. This is what the steelbook itself looks like, which to me, honestly, this is quite a bit better than the other steelbooks for this movie that have been out there. This is the full slip box that goes around the steelbook. And then it comes with this booklet and a whole bunch of character cards, some postcards, all in there. And you can get just this by itself. You're not required to get that full one click. And then they have the option for the lenticular slip. And on this one, this front here will be what is lenticular. And then the third one is the double lenticular, where the front and the back will both be lenticular. Pretty nice release, I think. If you're interested in that, make sure you jump on it quick. Those generally go very fast. There was one recently. It literally sold out in, I think, 4 minutes. So if it's something you're interested in, make sure you're setting an alarm. Next one. This is not a release, but just a reminder. Mondo Macabro has their pre-orders live right now. If we got some time, we might go over to their site tonight and take a look. They started this morning at 11 o'clock my time, Central here, and they have 3 titles that are available for pre-order right now. Those will be on pre-order for the rest of the weekend, and lately, the Mondo Macabro releases have been selling out in the same weekend. That's pretty crazy, considering Mondo Macabro used to release some of their old titles only about 700 of the limited edition, and they would sit on them for months, a couple months, 2 or 3, sometimes 4 or 5 months. Their release of this one, Private Vices and Public Virtues, this one was available for the longest time in their shop, the limited edition with the slipcover. And for some reason, over the last year and a half, 2 years, they've gotten incredibly popular, and their stuff is selling out same weekend that they're out, available for pre-order. And they've even increased their print runs. All of them, I believe, Jared has said, will be at least 1,000. And the bigger titles, like anything Paul Naschy, anything with stars that have actual draws to the names, they will be at least 1,200. And he's even teased some 1,500. So those are going to be coming out soon. And he has also stated that these will be shipping within, I believe, 2 weeks, by the end of August. Next up, if you are interested, there's a sale at Classic Flicks at the moment. I have personally never ordered from Classic Flicks. I know a couple people that have, and it looked okay to me. It's $3 shipping, which is great. And if you're going to go for some of the cheaper titles, it is totally worth it. If you're into some of the classic cinema, they have a lot of titles there. These are the guys that put out the Little Rascal sets that have come out recently. And most people are knowing them from their, I believe, their Kickstarters that they were putting out for those restorations. They have gotten brand new 4K restorations, which obviously I never expected those to come out. So that is a plus. And then that was for a new video for us. And then some of the, I'd say the bigger announcements, but this is Scream Factory. Oh, Angel here says, love Paul Naschy. Ryan, do a Naschy-specific video one of these days. That would actually be a really good one. Not a lot of people are giving attention to him these days. And surprisingly, he's got titles on a lot of labels. I mean, Scream Factory has a couple box sets with, I think, 3 titles each on those. Mondo Macabro has releases from him. Scorpion Releasing has releases from him. There's a lot out there. That would be a good idea. And Naschy has gotten more popular. Oh, and Arrow, I think, has 2 or 3 at this point. So earlier this week, there was a tweet sent out from Scream Factory on Monday saying that they were going to be announcing their titles for October around August 11th, which was yesterday, of course. And then Tuesday morning, somebody was looking at the new release websites, and they found this title, Killer Party, and they posted it on the Blu-ray.com forums. And then the next thing, people were looking, and they found Deadly Friend from Wes Craven. And Scream Factory just, the word started to travel, and they finally fully announced them just a couple hours later, which I don't understand what is going on with Scream Factory right now. It seemed like they were supposed to announce their titles, and I'd been told that they were going to be announcing their titles not this week, but the previous Monday. So that would have been, oh gosh, what is that, August 4th, I think? August 2nd, sorry. And if they had, none of this ever would have leaked. They would have controlled everything. Would have been a lot different than the September announcements. Those were the Halloween announcements where Dawn of the Discs put stuff out that they weren't supposed to and got a cease and desist from Jeff at Scream Factory, or Cliff, whichever one is the less calm one. And they didn't have to leak again this month, but they did. And so let's go over these. Killer Party is coming from Scream Factory on October 26th, which, by the way, October is now a stacked month from Scream Factory instead of a short month like they had originally planned on, because all of the Halloween releases and Elvira all got delayed into October. So now we're looking at, I believe, 8 titles in October rather than just 2. So Killer Party here. You were cordially invited to a party to die for. It's April Fool's Day, and the Sisters of Sigma Alpha Pi believe they found the perfect place to throw a party, the abandoned fraternity house where a guillotine pledge once lost his head and a hazing gone awry. Doesn't get much better than that. But shortly after their revelry begins, the student body counts stars to rise as the vengeful pledge returns from the grave and makes it a party to die for. Featuring appearances by Paul Bartel and Martin Hewitt, and the debut of Joanna Johnson, who would graduate a year later to her longtime best-known role on The Bold and the Beautiful. Killer Party was written by Barney Cohen and directed by William Fruitt. I have never seen this one. I had just barely heard of this title, and from what I've seen, the trailer for it looks decent, and what I've read and looked into is the opening is great. The ending, 15 minutes, 20 minutes or so, is where all the kills are, and everything in the middle just drags. And unfortunately, that's the type of movie that Scream Factory seem to be focusing on recently. They've put out a couple greats this year. You know, we finally got King Kong from then. The Dead Zone just got released, which is a classic. But other than that, and maybe Event Horizon, everything else this year has seemed to be just slow from Scream Factory. Not sure what's going on. They had a few months, January and February, if you don't count Event Horizon since it got delayed. They literally just had nothing. So it's been a slower period for Scream Factory. They had a good May and then a good July, I think it was, where House of Wax came out. I don't know. They seem to be having a rough period. But the other title is Deadly Friend. And this comes from Wes Craven, of course. This is a classic that everybody's been asking for quite some time. This is one, if you've seen Shopping Mall, is supposedly a little bit similar. This is from director Wes Craven, a terrifying tale of technology gone haywire. Lonely teenage genius Paul, a specialist in brain research, has two best friends, his remarkable robot and the beautiful girl next door, Christy Swanson. When tragedy strikes both of his friends, he desperately tries to save them by pushing technology beyond its mortal limits into a terrifying new realm. Like a modern-day Dr. Frankenstein, Paul discovers too late he has created a rampaging monster. And there is going to be some extras in progress, announced at a later date. They did say in the comments on their original post that this is not going to have the long-rumored director's cut, which from what I have been able to see, it literally just removes the gore from what it sounds like. I personally am not going to be missing that too much. I believe it's more similar to a TV cut than a director's cut, but I'm just glad we're finally going to have this on Blu-ray. I think this is one that has never had a Blu-ray release, which is what we definitely should be getting into. These rehashes that have come out, like I was talking about at the beginning, it's getting a little old, but it's nice that we have this to look forward to. Wes Craven, after he passed a few years back, has been getting a lot more attention, which is nice, and it's going to be a Wes sort of fall. Scream is coming out on 4K, and once again, we do not have the Wes Craven director's cut for that movie. That is one I was looking forward to. I'm hoping that we can get someday. It seems that is out from the hold of the Weinstein or Weinstein's grasp. Maybe we can have a Paramount double dip next year for that. We'll see. And then the next day, they also announced Nothing But Trouble. Kind of odd to me that this is going to be on the Shout Select line. And this, of course, is starring Dan Aykroyd and directed by Dan Aykroyd. And famously, this was such a bomb that Dan Aykroyd was never allowed to direct again. He pretty much just gave up on it. And that's probably because he couldn't even get somebody to finance anything. So take a road trip into the twisted mind of Dan Aykroyd with the uniquely unusual Nothing But Trouble. When cocksure stock market master Chris Thorne volunteers to drive lawyer Diane Lightson to Atlantic City, he's got more than sightseeing on his mind. One wrong turn and one traffic violation later, they find themselves in the collapsing village of Valkenvania and nabbed by the local constable. But their trouble really begins when they come nose to nose with the town's bizarre and unstable justice of the peace, Alvin Valkenheiser. I am just stoked I can finally get rid of this Nothing But Trouble DVD because it looks like trash. The sad thing is this is not going to be a collector's edition. They are not going to get a ton of special features. You'll see here they did get a new interview with Dan Aykroyd and with Bertilla Damas and production designer. Scream Factory does this a lot. A lot of the people that are very behind the scenes, which not necessarily a bad thing. Courtney says she's excited for the Scream 4K. Heck yes, it is going to be great. That movie has so many dark scenes. The HDR on that is going to be incredible. Nothing But Trouble, though. From what I'm hearing, it is most likely going to be the same scan that we had on the DVD, upscaled into HD. I don't know about you. That kind of sucks to me. I really wish that we would have some better elements that we could work with on that one. Especially now that they got something new from Dan Aykroyd. You'd think they'd put some money into it and make it a real collector's edition. But also, it's releasing in October, and it's not releasing on Scream Factory. It's going out on Shout Select. Kind of an odd choice to me, but maybe there's something that said they had to. Who knows? The other big Shout Select title is this Don Knotts 5 film collection. I spent some time watching some Andy Griffith when I was younger. Spent some time watching a few of his movies. This is one I'm probably not going to be picking up. He is hilarious. He's just not my thing anymore. The ones that are coming on this, though, The Ghost and Mr. Chicken, The Reluctant Astronaut, The Shakiest Gun in the West, and The Love God. And the last one is How to Frame a Fig. And now, if I'm remembering right, I believe How to Frame a Fig is the only one on here that we did not have on Blu-ray previously. Everything else was able to come through on the previous discs. So at least there's something new coming in here, making people grab the collection. And it's looking like it's going to be fairly inexpensive. I think the retail on this is going to be around 35 bucks. Diabolic has it up for pre-order now if you're interested already. And then next, this is the biggest announcement of the week for me, at least. I was thinking Scream Factory was going to do something a little bigger. I had heard that they were going to have a box set coming out for October, but I believe that got delayed. And unfortunately, they were not able to surprise me with anything. So instead, this is the big thing that surprised me. We had heard from some random person on a forum that Criterion was going to be getting into the UHD game probably 3 or 4 weeks ago. And they finally confirmed it yesterday and said, our first 4K Ultra HD releases. We are thrilled to announce Criterion's first 4K release, a 6-film slate that includes Citizen Kane, Menace to Society, The Piano, Mulholland Drive, The Red Shoes, and A Hard Day's Night. The first of these editions and their special features will be detailed in our November 2021 announcement next week, with others to follow in subsequent months. So that tells me right there that we are getting one of these most likely for November. It does say it's going to be detailed. I personally am taking that to mean that they are going to be announcing a 4K release for November. And Angel says Citizen Kane in 4K. How could someone not be excited for that? I completely agree. This is notable for them because this was their first Laserdisc title, and that means they're most likely going to be making it their first 4K release. Cinema Dave, how we doing? Your new subscriber, super excited for the Criterion announcement. That's good to hear. I believe I've watched on Aaron Pinn's channel with you, if that is my memory serving correctly. Yes, Criterion 4K. I am stoked on this. All of these, let's see, Citizen Kane, Menace to Society, Mulholland Drive, The Red Shoes, and A Hard Day's Night are all on Criterion previously. Let's see, Mulholland Drive, The Red Shoes, and A Hard Day's Night are currently in print on Blu-ray. A couple of you are into Criterion there. Can you confirm, has The Piano been in the Criterion collection before? Cinema Dave says yes. So that's what I thought. I do remember talking with you in a couple of those streams. I had a different screen name back then, possibly. But The Piano on this release, I believe, is the only thing that is brand new to the Criterion collection. And it's a good choice. I think all 6 of these are really good choices for their 4K releases that they're going to start with. Citizen Kane is obviously a big deal. The big question here, in my opinion, is what are they going to be charging for these? Now, the big elephant in the room is their Blu-ray releases are already 40 bucks at MSRP. During the sale, they are down to 20. And the big thing to note here is November is the other Barnes & Noble 50% off sale. So when this comes out in November, it will be 50% off if it is Citizen Kane or their first 4K actually comes out in November. So what do you guys think? I am personally thinking that they are probably going to start with an MSRP of 50 bucks. $49.99, somewhere around there. Famously, when they transitioned from DVD to Blu-ray, they kept the DVDs and the Blu-rays in production at the same time, and they lowered the DVDs and put the Blu-rays in at the Blu-ray price. Now, it would amaze me if they came in and lowered the price of the Blu-rays and kept the 4Ks at the price of the Blu-rays. Now, in their announcement, they said that they are going to be, let's see, at the bottom here, where is it? Each title will be available in a 4K UHD plus Blu-ray combo pack, including a 4K disc of the feature film, as well as the film and its special features on Blu-ray. Select films will be presented in Dolby Vision, HDR, and Dolby Atmos. Stay tuned for more details. So it's going to include the Blu-ray disc and the 4K. Angel saying, some people were saying that Criterion would reduce their MSRP for Blue. I hope so. And when they first came out with Blu-rays, the $40 price tag, it was a little high, but it was Criterion, so it made sense. I do think that it would serve their fans a little better if they lowered it now. Now, what would amaze me is if they lowered that Blu-ray price to, let's say, $30 MSRP, but then also lowered DVD prices, because they are still selling a lot of those. I don't know how many people know that, but a lot of the old Criterion DVD releases, they get sold to a lot of libraries and educational centers for very cheap. And if those could get down, gosh, if Blu-rays are down to 30, that means DVDs could be 25 or 20, and a $10 DVD, $15 DVD during a sale would be great. But these Blu-ray discs, if they were at 15, that would be pretty great. Sticking with Blu-ray for the most part, says Cinema Dave. I can see that. I am all in on the 4K train. I've got a decent TV. I do not have Dolby Atmos set up at my home right now, but 4K for me has shown to be very useful on some of these titles. For example, I don't know if you've seen Django from Arrow, but the 4K release of Django is astonishing. That movie is from 1966, and it looks like it was filmed in 2016. It is crazy how different that movie looks. I saw that movie for the first time, oh gosh, I want to say 1997 or a little earlier than that, probably like 1994 or 5, and a TV cut, and it was god awful. Everything was hazy. I barely remember it. Obviously, it was forever ago. I was tiny back then. It is something that I never thought I'd be able to see as clear as I do now. The 4K on that, the colors are great, but obviously it's a pretty muted Western. The real big thing is the clarity. That movie looks astonishing in 4K. So some of these movies, like for example, the A Hard Day's Night, the elements are supposedly not great. I'm curious how good they're going to be able to make that one look. But The Red Shoes, supposedly that one has been preserved very well. I'm sure that The Red Shoes are going to be great in 4K. I've got a friend of mine, John, that lives in the area that we've talked about The Red Shoes because it's one of his favorite movies. And I'm sure as soon as he read that, he was stoked. Obviously, Citizen Kane is going to be a big deal. But the big one for me is Menace to Society. They put that out in the Criterion Collection previously on Laserdisc, and I can't wait to see that in 4K. That is a great title. The other big one, let's see. The Piano is going to be a good one, but also for me, the other one is Mulholland Drive. That is probably one of my top 2 Lynch films. I love that movie. I've been really meaning to show my wife that movie, and this is the perfect reason for me to continue waiting just a few more months to show her that one. Angel says, I'm with Cinema Dave, but if a package comes with both, I'll get that. If the price is not too different, like Severin and Perdita, Durango, and Day of the Beast. Those, if you've got a 4K player and you're able to buy both, or even if you don't have a 4K player and you're just, willing to future-proof yourself, it is the way to go. I swear. Some of these labels, though, like Arrow has not released combo packs for 4K and Blu-ray for all of their 4K releases. I think they would do a lot better if they did. Blue Underground, though, they are killing the 4K game. All of theirs, I believe, have had combo packs with the Blu-ray and the 4K disc, and their 4Ks, nothing looks as good as their 4Ks. Even top directors today with full HDR, giving it everything they can, Blue Underground has blown me away with their 4K releases. So Criterion going 4K. I am stoked on that. If you've looked at any of my live streams with Flip in the last couple months, I'm kind of souring on the Criterion Collection over the last couple of years, and this was one of the main reasons that they were holding out on 4K. They have always stuck their nose out to be the top of the line, to be the Criterion Collection for boutique distributors, and it is not the best of the best if there's already a established, well-established even, completely new format that you're just not supporting. I think this is a great move for them, and it's going to bode well for them for the future. Now, if we can get them to boost some of their packaging issues that I've seen over the last couple of years, obviously they've had their share of controversies with the scans that they've done, like for Memories of Murder and the Wong Kar-wai set coming with sort of a green tint. Don't really know what's up with that. Memories of Murder is a radically different movie when it is so dark that you can't even make out what's on the screen in some of the scenes. That's kind of a lousy situation. But beyond that, when the booklet can't even fit in the package, that's not a great sign. A lot of people are, they crap all over Shout Factory and Arrow for their replacement discs recently, but for something like that, you can't even use a ruler to find out if your booklet will fit in the disc or in the package. Anyways, I'm excited to see what they have next. 6 titles is a lot to announce at once at first. For somebody like Criterion, I think that's a big risk for them, which does show that they're going all in. Angel says, "How about all the blue tinted Italian movies?" There are a lot of those. I will give you that. Lots of blue tinted Italian movies. And did we get anything else this week? Oh, there was other Shout Factory releases buried in their site. They didn't bother to announce any of these, but a couple of them are kind of exciting. The Sin City sequel, not one that I'm going to be looking forward to. Then we have this one. We got the Bruce Lee story and Jet Li in Unleashed as a double feature. This is one I will most likely be trying to find in a sale later on. 6 Minutes to Midnight looks interesting. Eddie Izzard in a leading role is kind of interesting to me. Liam Neeson, my boy Flip, is going to love those. And they've got some other titles here at the end that they always put out. Nothing super special there. This was a big one, too. I am a big fan of The Guest. I don't know if anybody out there has seen that recently. I just watched it for the first time, oh gosh, probably February or March of this year, and I loved it. Dan Stevens is incredible in this movie. The coloring in this movie is going to look great in HDR, and it's coming from what is quickly turning into being my favorite label at the moment, and that is Second Sight. Second Sight is doing great work with their limited edition releases in the UK, and thankfully this is 4K, so that will be region-free. And unfortunately, the Blu-ray disc that will come with that will likely be region-locked. Second Sight, most of the movies that they've licensed have had to be region-locked, but the 4K disc, of course, is always region-free. So that is nice. I am hoping that with this coming out, I'm hoping that we can get, what is the other one? You're Next. That would be a nice one to pair with this in 4K. And they're fairly recent movies, but with what they can do with the coloring, it is going to look incredible. And I'm glad Courtney says here, The Guest is so good. Such a fun release. And then we got a big one this morning from Indicator, which if you've never seen any of Indicator's box sets, let me give you some details with this one. This is what they look like up close. Let me make this a little bigger. That works. This is Columbia Noir number 2. They have all of these titles in here. There are, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 6 movies in here. And they have them in these little soft disc cases. All of them are numbered. And they go all out. I mean, the set itself is stamped with a number to show the limited edition number. And these are very nice, much nicer than I thought they were going to be, because they are the Digipack releases. This is a soft cover. This is Glenn Ford and framed, but everything is on here. You got a nice disc, nice art on that side. Everything about the movie and the special features is on the back. Indicator does great work, but then with all of those movies, they also have this massive book, and there is so much in here. And this is obviously all about noir. So there is so much they can write about noir from Columbia from back in the day. And this is all from, let's see, this is 1947 to 1958. There's a lot that has been done to study these. Cinema Dave, he says he loves Indicator, amazing releases, agreed. These noir releases, they go all out. And there's so much in here. A lot of these companies, they put out booklets that are just full of art. And I'm not saying there's no art in here. There's plenty. But they also are like Arrow in the fact that they just fit so much in terms of writing on these pages. Indicator, they spare no expense when they're releasing these and get as many people as they can involved. And that's something that other people who aren't into some of these classic films have kind of turned their nose away from, because they are maybe a little too scholarly sometimes. But I think for some of the releases, that makes sense. For something like this, yeah, that calls for a scholarly touch. For something like Irreversible, probably not. I love the Irreversible release, but it's probably not necessary to go all out for the historical context of it. But this is one that we can. This is Mae West in Hollywood from 1932 to 1943. And the big thing about this is that most of these titles either are out on Kino or coming out from Kino here in the next couple of months. I think there are 1 or 2 releases in here that is going to be exclusive to this indicator set at the moment. Could obviously be announced from Kino at any time. This is coming out on the 22nd of November, and it's going to be 6 discs with 10 movies, which means, of course, a couple of them are going to be on the same disc, which for these, that's probably not that big of a deal. The compression should not be a problem on these. Let's see, it says, already a major star when she went to Hollywood in the early 30s, having sensationalized Broadway, West found herself in a unique position of power and control. She would, as legend has it, pick her co-stars, including Cary Grant, receive screenwriter credits, and bait audiences and censors alike as the pre-code era gave way to a more sanitized form of American filmmaking. And as I just showed you, Indicator really goes all out with this art. They use the classic poster art as much as they can, which most of the time, they're able to do that on the inside at least. And just like on the Columbia Noir, this is commissioned art on the front at least, but everything else on the inside, they use the same classic art. So this is what came with this film back then, what was used to advertise it, which is nice. You know, you get a couple options. You get something that looks nice on the shelf, and you still have all of the historical aspect tied to it. And the other movies coming in this, She Done Him Wrong. This one with Cary Grant is I'm No Angel. This one just came out from Kino, I believe. This is Belle of the 90s. Going to Town. Klondike Annie, that one also just came out. Go West, Young Man. And these they look great. The classic colors they've got on this is perfect. And Indicator, if you've not ordered from them, they go all out on their releases. So this is going to have a whole bunch of special features. Generally, they get announced a couple months later after they announce the titles. I don't believe, let's see, on their website, they usually tell you if it is region locked or not. Indicator used to be all region free, and then they started distributing some Sony titles. And unfortunately, Sony forced them to region lock their titles. So this one is going to be region B locked. But it does pay to go region free. And if you're into it, I did put out that video last week about importing titles from overseas. And Indicator is a big reason to do it. Unfortunately, Indicator is one of the more expensive sites. Their free shipping threshold for international shipping is 200 pounds, which that's a lot of money. That in USD is, I think it's something like $280. So you got to be putting together a big order to get free shipping. The Indicator does do a couple sales a year, usually only 1 or 2, but hopefully that is something that you are able to dive into if you're interested. They put out a whole bunch of different genres and titles. They've put out tons of Hammer, some really good Vincent Price titles. They've got the John Ford of Columbia set. I'm just looking over the collection right now. They've got the William Castle sets. A lot of the box sets are out of print, but the standard editions have been released for most of those at this point. One other one that I would recommend is Watermelon Man, and that one is coming out as part of the Criterion set in December, I believe it was announced. So that's a good one. They also have the best release for road games at the moment. Another one that I would look forward to. And I think that might be it for announcements. Is there anything else? Anybody have any questions? This is my friend Brian. Brian says he's late and he's sorry. That's okay. I'm sure you were driving. You're good. Good to see you, Brian. Congrats. Brian's wife, or almost wife soon, hopefully. Just had another baby. Angel, is Indicator the one that put out the Odessa file? Yes, I believe they are. Let me look at that real quick. Let's see, the Odessa file has had They put that one out, and it's still available as far as I can tell. And that came out in March of this year. Indicator is great, really high quality. I mentioned Irreversible. If you've never seen it, this is a Gaspar Noé film that a lot of people are put off by a couple of the scenes. There's a rather violent scene in the beginning at a nightclub where somebody gets the crap kicked out of them. And then there's a scene of sexual assault. But it is, no matter what happens in it, it is a beautiful movie, really well acted. If you're not aware, the reason that the art is like this and all of the marketing materials with this movie, everything is backwards. And that's because the timeline in this movie is completely backwards. And I've not watched this version, but this release has a version of the movie where everything is played in the proper order. I don't know why you would want to do that. You can, but the whole point of that movie is to watch it in reverse. Angel says, I want to pick that up. I watched that movie so many times in high school. It's a really good one. I would suggest finding it. They did release, I think, 10,000 of this release, and it's still available as far as I'm aware. Yeah, 10,000. I got number 2022. Cinema Day, can you recommend a region-free Blu-ray player? I can. The one that I would recommend is the Panasonic one that everybody is touting. I don't have the model number offhand, but Panasonic, as far as I'm aware, has the most reliable region-free player out there. I personally, I got really lucky. I bought one of the Oppo 203s right before they were discontinued, and then I spent, gosh, I got it on sale from 220 Electronics. I think it was $75, and I got a little microchip that I had to unscrew the cover of my Oppo, take it off, and plug that in, and now it's region-free. I modified it with that chip, and now I can go in and switch the region, so it's nice. But now that Oppo is discontinued, and they don't make any more hardware for that company anymore. Mad Collector says, why don't Indicator have Jason the Argonauts as a single release when they have it in a box set now out of print? That one, I believe the answer is due to rights. The rights for that movie have been kind of squirrely, and I think they only were allowed to release that as part of that box set. That's not saying that they can't get those rights in the future, and I'm sure they've tried. That for some of these companies, like Arrow is doing it right now with re-releasing some of their older titles in box sets. They've already done the work. They've already scanned it. They are able to literally just put it in a new design box and make money again off of that same title for people that didn't get it. So I'm sure they will try to get that put out. Angel, is that Panasonic modded or region-free out of the box? 220 Electronics, they mod that Panasonic model for you so that you don't have to mod it. And when they do it and they ship it to you like that, you're allowed to update the firmware and all of that so that you can continue to have the region-free capability without losing that. And for some of those players, if you mod it yourself, the risk is that if you update the firmware, you will no longer have the ability to have it region-free. So it's not worth it to get those that you modify yourself unless it's a hardware mod, like on that Oppo that I was talking about. But those Oppos are crazy expensive now. Like to get one of those Oppo 203s, I think the last one I saw for sale was around $2,000, and it's not worth that, to me at least, when you can just get one of these Panasonic 4K region-free players that are the best one out there is like only $350 or $380. And then they have sales frequently, so you can actually get it for a little less. I am loving the interaction. If you didn't watch me on Flip's channel this week, I wanted to share a couple of the things that I watched this last week. I had a very heavy watch week compared to normal. The first one I watched, I went to a hotel by myself for 2 nights last week just to get away from the family and the kids and have some quiet time, edit some videos and stuff. I finally watched Lady Bird. This movie kind of kicked me in the ass. I watched this alone on I think it was a Wednesday night, and I put this off for a long time. I don't know why. Everybody that watched this movie said that they had to call their mom afterwards to tell them that they loved them and see if they could reconnect a little bit. And perhaps that's one of the reasons why I didn't watch it for a while, because I didn't have a great relationship with my mom growing up. But it hit me for that exact reason. It made me miss the early 2000s. It was set in 2003, and Lady Bird was 18 then, and I was 16 in 2003. So it felt very close to home for me. Mad Collector says he has the Sony UBPX700. It's a great region-free player. I've heard that about that specific model before. Sony, the only thing I've heard is that they have more hardware faults than Panasonic. Panasonic used to be lower than Sony, and now Sony seems to be focusing more on their TVs rather than on their Blu-ray player hardware. Another one I watched this week, one that not many talked about. This is a Mill Creek release. I watched The Stranger Beside Me. Man, that glare is awful. This is the Ted Bundy story, and it stars Barbara Hershey. I met her a couple years ago at the Texas Frightmare Convention, and the other person in this is Billy Campbell. He plays Ted Bundy, and it is based on the mostly true story about Ann Rule, who was a crime writer who was friends with Ted Bundy, not knowing that he was out there killing people. And it's really well acted. It was from, gosh, what year was it? I think it's 2003 or 4, somewhere around there. 2000, it looks like. And it's surprisingly well acted. It does look a little dated already, but this Mill Creek release is pretty decent. Mill Creek seems to put some attention on some releases that don't really call for it, and then give other releases completely bare bones that people would actually care about. I don't know why. Mill Creek is odd, but they seem to never do anything in-house, so that's probably why. It's just something that they can license and try to make some money out, but at least we get some release for some of these titles. Another classic that a lot of people talk about, I watched Cult Epic's release of Angst this week for the first time. This is based on a true story, just like The Stranger Beside Me, of a guy that was serving 8 or 9 years in prison and got released, and then that afternoon went and took an entire family captive and tortured them and killed them. And it is really well acted. It is one of those movies that if you've watched it, you either love it or you hate it. And I am probably the first person I've seen that I was just kind of middle of the ground. It was really well acted, so I appreciated that. But to me, afterwards, it felt like not a lot happened. There was not a whole lot of plot to the story. The main person in it that was portraying the killer, he did a very good job of just being frenetic and having this mania side to him, and that was really captivating to see on screen for sure. But the story itself, I think, was missing some things, but it was decent. And then to switch gears about as much as I can from a family being tortured, for my family movie of the week with my kids, I watched Mouse Hunt. I forgot how good this movie was. This movie was amazing. A little slow at first, probably about 20 minutes, and then it picks up once they get to the house that the mouse lives in, of course. That's the whole point of the movie. This movie was hilarious. I gave this literally, I think, 4 or 4.5 stars on my Letterboxd. Really funny. My oldest kid is 6.5 now. He loved it. He was rolling laughing some of the things that happened. Slapstick humor is something that he and I have always enjoyed together, so it was nice just to watch all that together as a family. I did stream a couple videos or a couple movies this week. I watched the new Suicide Squad. Very funny. I think it will be dated very quickly, but it was certainly entertaining. Lots of fun to watch. The Stallone playing the shark was really good. John Cena was hilarious in his role, and seeing him and Idris Elba with each other, it was really, really good to see them playing off each other. The scene where they are going through the camp and they are just trying to one-up each other. If you haven't seen it yet, I won't say any more than that, but it was really well done. James Gunn is a great and seemingly the only director that can save these DC movies. That's only the second DC movie I've ever seen. I finished up my week watching the Scream Factory release of What Keeps You Alive. This is an IFC Midnight release, and this is a movie about a lady that goes to this random house in the woods with her wife, and they go out on a walk together. And this is not a spoiler. It happens very early in the movie. The wife pushes her off the side of a cliff, and she falls. And the wife goes and looks over the edge of the cliff, and she has ran away. She survived somehow. There's some blood, so she knows she's injured. And What Keeps You Alive is basically the play on survival and her surviving in that forest, trying to run away from her wife, not knowing what is going on. Really well acted. Overall, it wasn't a winner for me, but it was at least a fun watch, a good watch. It's one I would certainly recommend picking up if you've never seen it. Other than that, I have a package I can unbox on camera. Unless there's any other questions, I appreciate actually having a community here for the first one tonight. Going to be doing this every Thursday, so please come hang out. Next week, we're going to be having some Criterion announcements to talk about, since they already said that they were going to be announcing next week. Mad Collector says, Lady Bird was an okay movie. I think it's overrated. Check out Ghost World and We Are the Best. Awesome coming-of-age movies. I was just talking about that on Flip's channel this week, if you saw. We were talking about coming-of-age films that are set in a very specific period. So Lady Bird really got this for me, and I know it's another A24 film, but mid-90s got that for me. Being the age that I was in the 90s, it was astonishing how close they were able to get that entire culture. I love the way that Jonah Hill was able to direct that movie, to have the biggest thing for me, that dialogue in mid-90s was amazing. Ghost World, I believe I have seen. I can't remember it, so maybe I have not. We Are the Best I have not seen. I will add that to my list right now after the stream for sure. And Courtney says this was fun. Loved hearing what you've watched this week. Thanks. That's good to hear. Let me open this up. This is from Diabolic. I have no idea what's in here. This is something that was pre-ordered months and months ago, and something in here delayed it. And I think it is... Yep, it is this title on the bottom. Angel says, you get in the Yokai Monster box. I missed out on the Daimogen. I don't know why I said Daimogen. I'm thinking about getting Yokai. We talked about this on a couple streams ago, and it sounds up my alley. The Daimogen is decent. If you're still looking for a release of Daimogen, send me a PM there, Angel. I might have a beat on one for you. But I'm considering Yokai. I haven't pulled the trigger yet. This is the next Paramount Presents title I was missing, and it got held up in this pre-order. This is Mommy Dearest with Faye Dunaway. We Are the Best is a Swedish movie. Oh, nice. That is good. Right up my alley, then. This is one I have been stoked to finally see again. I saw this a long time ago, and this has not had a good release again until just this, gosh, I think this came out in May or June of this year. I think it was May for Mother's Day. The endlessly quotable cult classic celebrates 40 years with this debut on Blu-ray, restored from a new 4K film transfer and packed with special features. I am stoked on this. Love that we get a brand new 4K transfer. Paramount Presents. They started off a little rocky for me, not great, but they're doing good stuff. They have had some odd releases, like their release of Almost Famous. They released it on 4K at the same time, and a Paramount Presents, which was just a Blu-ray. Why not put the 4K disc in the Paramount Presents? Anyways, the other one, this is the last Arrow Academy title, I believe, that was announced. This is Tales from the Urban Jungle. And Arrow Academy, after this came out, is now no more. They are all going to be under Arrow Video. This is one that has been held on for a long time because of this other movie down here that was pre-ordered, and everybody else has watched this, and I've been dying to see it. Writer, director, producer, and actor Jules Dassin was one of Hollywood's most remarkable talents. Between 1947 and 55, he directed a string of stylish, gritty, and hard-hitting film noir classics, including Thieves Highway and Night in the City. I cannot wait to see these. I've been on a crime kick lately, and these are going to be great for that. Tales from the Urban Jungle. By the way, if you've never shopped there, I love Diabolic DVD. This came out forever ago at this point. I don't even remember when this was released, but they've just been holding it for me because I pre-ordered it with these other titles, and it's in perfect shape. Gotta love Diabolic. And then the last one that was holding this up, this is Unearthed Films' release of Evil Dead Trap. This is a release from Hong Kong, I believe. Let's see the synopsis here. A TV station employee takes a camera crew out to an abandoned factory to investigate a purported snuff film that was made there, only to end up running for her life. Nami hosts a late-night video program. She receives a tape which appears to be a real snuff film. She and her crew investigate the location where she meets a man looking for his brother, who warns her to stay away. As she gets closer to the truth, she and her friends are subjected to a brutal nightmare. This is one that is loaded with special features. This is a 2-disc release from Unearthed Films. Supposed to be great. I cannot wait to watch this one. Sardis says, is that Birdman of Alcatraz on the corner cover? This is, I believe that is a scene from Thieves Highway, if I'm remembering right. Or actually, it might be The Naked City, now that I'm thinking about it. Night in the City, it is important to, or sorry, The Naked City was the first major Hollywood production to be shot entirely on the streets of New York. I love New York films, love some of those old ones. And that's all I've got, unless anybody else has some questions or any other releases you'd like to see. Thanks for hanging out, like I said, for this first episode of Reconnected. Going to be doing every Thursday night about probably 8 o'clock, 8:30, something like we did tonight. And if there's anything else you want to ask next week, let me know. Shoot me a message beforehand, ask a question in the chat. Whatever you want to do, let's hang out. Let's talk about some movies. Thanks for hanging out tonight, everybody. Have a good night. See you next week.